What's up, y'all? Happy Monday!
Look at us being on time! Yay!
We getting all professional and shit.
Okay, I need to move my camera because
We have all of our ducks in a row too. Like we had everything ready to go. It's
there
a little
ducks?
weird.
I'm just kidding. I'm good. Okay.
Yes, we have ducks and they are in a row. What's up, everybody?
Weird. Is that better? Nope. Okay, now I'm having the whole my head's being cut off thing again. Damn it! It was fine. It was better before. All right. Anywho, hi people. How art thou? Did you
Happy
miss
Mondays.
us?
Of course.
Oh, well, okay.
You can tell us if you didn't miss us. You know, we'll be fine.
You.
We'll be fine. We'll get over it.
Did you miss the Nerdolitics merch?
You know you love that merch. Go get that merch, y'all. Go get the merch. And then send us a picture. And send us a picture of you with the merch.
Indeed. And yeah, send us a picture and we'll send out a tweet on Twitter. Where tweets go. I
almost just knocked over my mug. It was bad. I almost knocked over my mug. Hey, ooh, Holly.
Yeah, send us a picture.
Send me some memes, yo.
Send us a picture of you with your Nerdolitics merch, and we'll put it on our social media, and we'll show people. Look at this awesome human being with our wonderful merch. Yeah,
because you know I'm already repping the merch on. I'm already repping the merch on my account.
See, force the vote. Nerdolitics. Just 2 examples of cool stuff you can get.
You can kill capitalism.
We deal with kill capitalism. We have FHL stuff.
Medicare for all. Got all kinds of fancy stuff on there.
We have I forgot to turn off the sound on my phone.
Is that on a shirt or on a poster?
Yes.
Yeah, we should have Killjoy merch up soon. I need to tweak a few things, and then we should have some merch for Killjoy.
I may or may not have accidentally. Yep, I did.
What'd you do?
I accidentally started watching this very broadcast that we're on right now because my phone gave me a notification and I tried to make it go away and it was like, play? Okay.
Anyway. You gotta give us an extra eyes. You gotta give us those eyes, Jackie. It's okay. It's okay if you want to watch us. I'm totally cool with that.
Okay. So, just to let everybody know, for people who aren't watching live, which is probably going to be quite a few people, chapters are going to be listed. Usually it takes about a day because YouTube has to, YouTube processes the video for, several hours for some reason. So, it takes about a day for us to get the chapters up, but there you go. Chapters will be up there, and you can go to whatever you want to watch. Today we are discussing the season finale of The Bad Batch, the first 2 episodes of Marvel's new show What If, and
X-Men: The Days of Future Past. We're getting dystopic and time traveling.
Yes.
Hey. All kinds of fun.
I just realized that above my head is actually Batman. The way I had it framed before, you could see the Silver Surfer, who's right there. But now, because I moved, Batman is above. This is so stupid. Okay, hold on. I have to move it.
Oh, that's a good question, Jay. What did we think of the new Eternals trailer?
I have not seen it, so that's what I think of it. I like to go into movies trailer blind, so I watch. Usually there's a 45-second teaser trailer. I'll watch that at most. And then anything after that is when, spoilers abound, and I just stop watching. So, haven't seen it, not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was... It intrigued me. It piqued a little bit of interest, but I was also kind of I don't know yet how I feel about this. I'll have to wait until I see the movie. But that joke at the very end, I thought was really funny. The joke at the end was really funny. That's fine. We'll talk about it after you see the movie.
I love this comment. Who are you? Who's going to be doing the ranting? Who's the ranter? I don't even know.
I mean, I think it depends on the day and the topic.
Yes.
It's like depending on the day and the topic determines who's ranting. Because we all, and I think one of the reasons he brought that up is because I went on 2 epic rants during Roundtable last week.
Okay. I think that's better because the way I had it before, I looked like I was hiding, like I was almost out of the frame. So now I'm almost as tall as you. I'm pretty sure I'm actually taller
because
than
I sit way too close to the camera. I really do.
So you know what? I think that's the biggest difference because my camera is like 2 feet away from me. It's at the end of my desk, and I have my laptop propped up on something to make it higher. So I'm like trying to match you. Like, why are we not fitting? Anyhow, oh man, I did it again. I keep accidentally unplugging my fan. That's no bueno. Anywho, Indy left news. Hi.
Hey, Indy. Welcome to the show.
Yep. All right. Any news you want to bring up, or you want to just jump into the Bad Batch?
Let's just jump right into the Bad Batch today. I do not have, although, actually, let's bring up this one thing because I know you had.
I don't have any news except for this.
Well, it's not exactly news. It's just it's somewhat media commentary. It's somewhat media commentary, but it's not necessarily news because I know you and I have a bit of a similar opinion on this, and there's been a lot of commentary about it, but we don't really get to hear your commentary very often because you're not on Roundtable very often. So I want to ask you about the whole Hassan Piker buying a house.
No. What? Because I know every week now. Like, what are you doing? And
but I feel like you and I have a
we're
similar.
Go by sabotaging Jackie. She is
it's not that I'm sabotaging you. I'm not sabotaging you. Like I feel like you and I have a similar opinion on this, and that's why.
Okay.
So I feel like that's the reason I want to bring it up because, and actually I heard Brianna Joy Gray I thought had a pretty decent opinion on this that she said on her show, and I mean we can even play that video if you want to, but if you want to go ahead and what is your opinion, and I'll give my opinion right after.
This is stupid. It doesn't matter how much money you make or don't make, it matters what you're fighting for. He's a communist. So he made money, okay, but how did he make that money? He made that money. Everybody wants to say like, oh, it's nepotism because his uncle didn't give him shit. The only thing Jank gave him was a job at TYT. Okay, then he left that job to start live streaming. I remember because I was watching him. Because at the time, the only thing I watched on TYT was Agitprop, which was Haas's show, and he was very much like he was antagonistic toward his uncle because Jank is like completely neoliberal, halfway to Republican, and Haas was like full-on communist. Like, no, you got to seize the means of production. And everybody at TYT, I mean, go back and watch those videos. Everybody in the comments, all the comments are is just everybody dogpiling on Haas, saying, "Oh, this is nepotism. That kid's too stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Nobody wants communism." Like, that's how he started, right? He left TYT. At the time, he was in like a 1-bedroom apartment, and you could see that apartment. It was like pretty small, and he's put all of his money into buying a bunch of equipment so that he could live stream like 11 hours a day. And his uncle did not understand. Like, nobody that he knew really got it. And hi Robin.
Hey Robin.
And he started live streaming 11 hours a day for over a year. That's how he built the following that he has. He put in the work. And to say that, to like completely ignore that and act like, oh, he was just given a handout by his uncle. His uncle pretty much like had nothing to do with him once he started doing Twitch because he didn't understand it. He did at the time. Jank had no idea what Twitch was or like could be, and Haas was like, "No, I know I can turn this into something." And he gave up a year of his life. During that time, he lost girlfriends, he lost job opportunities. He did that like 11 hours a day just to build that up, and then for everybody to be like, oh, he didn't earn it. Like, that's, first of all, that's bullshit. Second of all, if he, like, because of that, he was able to buy himself a better house, that doesn't make him a capitalist. That just means he's moving up. So what did everybody expect him to do? Did everybody want him to, like, stay in that little shitty 1-bedroom apartment and throw away, like, or like give away all the rest of his money? He could have done that. But the fact that he bought a better house for himself with money that he earned wasn't just like, yeah, it was given to him by the people who watched him, but he gave them content in exchange, which is what everybody who does content is aiming for, right? So to me, the notion of like, oh, he bought a $2 million house. First of all, this is Los Angeles. Okay, this is not fucking Kansas City or some like middle of nowhere part of the United States. I've never seen a house less than $500,000. Well, I won't say never, but like in the last few years, I haven't seen a house that costs less than $500,000. Mm-hmm. Like, period. Like, not even in the ghetto. Okay, so here, everything is just like housing and gas. It's just way more expensive. I've walked by a house that I thought, oh, that was pretty nice. How much is that? It's $1 million. Okay, no. That was years ago, and now that house is probably $2 million. And I thought at the time, maybe that's like 5-6, at the time I was thinking, well, it's probably like $700,000, which in Los Angeles minds is like affordable, right? Because again, mm-hmm. $700,000 house is a middle-class house. That is not an expensive house. $1 million house is an upper middle-class house. You've got to, like, get in the LA mindset, first of all. Secondly, and by the way, that's like pretty much anywhere in Los Angeles, unless you're going to literally move to, like, the ghetto. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. And secondly, like, I don't care how much money Jimmy Dore, Hassan Piker, Susan Sarandon, any of those people have. Are they fighting for us? That's all I give a shit about. Literally all I care. Okay? I don't care how much people have. I don't care what they do with their money. And I think it's intrusive for people to look at how much money people make. And there's another thing, like, he makes money, but he also has people that he has to pay. Because at this point, like, he pays people to do things like, edit his videos for him and, upload things and all that stuff. There's a lot more expenses that go on behind the scenes. So the fact that he's able to profit off of that and make money doesn't make him an evil dude. Now, if he was investing that money, now him buying a house, like I said, that doesn't bother me. But if he was like investing that money into something like Raython, that's when you can be like, no, that's capitalism. You're being a douchebag. Mm-hmm. But and again, I don't really care what anybody buys with their money, like, mm-hmm. as far as a house or anything.
Yeah. And, I tend to agree with you on that. Like, whenever the whole argument came up about Hassan's house, like, my whole thing was, okay, so, like, it seemed like a lot of the commentary that was coming around about it was basically the same people who get upset when people talk about Jimmy Dore's house. Which, fine, if you want to talk about, Hassan is talking about Jimmy Dore, but Hassan also has a house. It's like, okay, fine. I don't give a shit if Jimmy Dore has a house. I don't give a shit if Hassan Piker has a house. Like, I don't care. Like, honestly, if they were able to, save up enough money to buy a house in LA, like, congratulations. I have nothing but love for you. Instead of getting so angry about, people buying a house, how about we, put that anger, instead of channeling it in that direction of, hey, you have a house, how about we channel that anger to about all the people who don't have a house? Everyone should have a house. And that's what we should be fighting for. We shouldn't be fighting over who has a house, but whether or not those people, and this is another point that I kind of want to make that's in that direction. Okay, if he has a house, is he fighting for other people to be housed? Because, as, in opposition to him, is he, I don't watch a lot of Hassan Piker, so I don't know what he's arguing for. I don't know what type of activism he's doing. I have no idea. All I really see is him playing video games with AOC. So if that's all he's doing, then you can criticize that. That's what you can criticize. Don't criticize the fact that he bought a house. Because honestly, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, comment on what he's actually doing. Like, is he fighting for the unhoused? Unlike his, former TYT co-host, Anna Kasparian, who is, basically berating people for living in tent cities. And being basically a shitlib who's complaining about, tent cities and the unhoused, instead of actually fighting for them to be housed. What is Anna Kasparian doing? Like, if Hassan is fighting for people to be housed, like, I only know a little bit about what Jimmy Dore is doing. Like, if they are fighting for people, like, I don't give a shit if they live in a house or not. Like, we should be fighting for everyone to be housed. Like, and that's my whole thing about it. It's like, we should be fighting for everyone to be housed, not bitching about who has a house and who doesn't. Because that gets us nowhere. That is so unproductive.
Okay, I want to point out this comment. Wicked Bested said, Jackie's missing the point. We're not mad at Hassan for being rich or buying a house. We're calling out the hypocrites who went after other people for having expensive houses. That's not the issue we're talking about right now. That's a completely separate issue. I'm not missing that point. We didn't bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of pointed that out, of like a lot of the people who are complaining about Hassan buying a house are the same people who get angry about people calling out Jimmy Dore for having a house. Which, if you want to be upset about the hypocrisy, that's fine. Be upset about the hypocrisy. But don't get mad at, don't get mad at Hassan for being able to buy a house when, like, this is what I talked to Beth, aka Bourgeois Alien, about this earlier today on Twitter, is that there's this weird feeling on the left sometimes that we're supposed to be volunteering our labor instead of, because she was talking about someone who was constantly getting unfollowed every single time that they put a link to their Etsy store. It's like, no, we're supposed to be getting paid for our labor. That's the whole point of socialism and communism, is getting paid for your labor, not volunteering your labor and expecting nothing of it. Like, yeah, so I have no bad feelings about, like, I have no bad feelings whatsoever about Hassan Piker being able to buy a house. And I think that's silly.
Right. As far as, like, going after people who were calling out Jimmy Dore and everything, I thought that was stupid too. People were like, oh, Jimmy Dore's got a mansion. Like, so? Did he earn it? Did he exploit people to get it? If he didn't, who fucking cares, man? Pay attention. Like, I feel like that scene in the Hunger Games, like, that really is going to need to become like a meme for us. Remember who the real enemy is, okay?
Exactly. Like, that's exactly true.
Oh, like, I got a super sticker!
Thank you, Noli!
Thank you, Noli! You're
Mwah.
awesome. And earlier, Noli had asked what our, she said, 2 of the most beautiful women I've had the pleasure to learn from, Jackie, Killjoy, Meg. What is your PayPal or Cash App, ladies?
My Cash App is the same as my Twitter handle.
Yeah, for me, I just say, just donate on Ko-fi.
Or, yeah, do Ko-fi. Tag Nerd. That way it goes to us.
Yeah, if you just put Nerd, and if you donate on Ko-fi, then it'll go to us. I will put that here.
Yeah, let's put that banner up. Yeah.
Yeah, people have added way more banners, and so now it's hard to find them. Yes. Here we go. Alrighty.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring up the Brianna Joy Gray video real quick.
Okay.
Right. Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Half the left thinks that you shouldn't talk about third parties. Half the left literally calls the
audio. Okay, the audio is on. Why am I not hearing it? Can you hear it?
I heard it.
Oh, weird. Okay. For some reason, I cannot hear it. Okay, whatever. I've heard it before, so.
Okay, now it's not on. It was on before you stopped it, but now I don't hear it.
Okay, weird. Oh, because now it got remuted for some reason. I don't know. I don't like my computer. Okay, go.
half the left thinks that you shouldn't talk about third parties. Half the left literally calls the other half the dumb, dumb left for articulating any value or interest in third party candidacies. Half the left thinks that the other half of the left is monstrous villains who attack women of color for critiquing the efficacy of squad members. Right? One might call them the institutional left, is doing the work, I would argue, of backing people away from exactly those strategies that would create fear that is useful for us. And they're doing it under the cover of saying, well, we have all of these team players on the inside, we have to protect them now. The House discourse is silly, but when people say, okay, well, my critique of Hassan Piker, and this is a critique that I've seen that I'm articulating. You know, I'm not, staking a claim here, but that, because he is opposed to third parties, because he, generally speaking, is, defensive of the squad members, because he wasn't supportive of efforts like Force the Vote, that is part of why we're frustrated that he has been able to earn so much money and buy this house, let's say, and that the people who are doing the best in the left ecosystem are the people, not frankly Jimmy Dore, he's an outlier there, I'd say, but are the people who have kind of closed ranks around lefty institutional actors, perhaps for access reasons, perhaps who knows why. It could be sincere sympathies. But that's part of what's motivating, I think, this fracture. It's not all superficial.
When I went to seminary, I went to Harvard Divinity School, I lived in Roxbury, and I commuted into Cambridge every day. And that's where I say I learned to hate liberals. Well, all these people sitting around talking about empowering people they never met. They were flying off to Nicaragua to pick coffee a week with the Sandinistas and coming back and talking about it for the rest of the semester. Those are the kind of activists you're speaking about, boutique activists who have traditionally been and remain utterly irrelevant, not important, and not worth your time your energy even responding to.
Okay, so, I mean, I tend to understand what it is that she's saying here, is that, I mean, it's perfectly fair to say that we can criticize the way that Hassan is, building his brand off of, his relation with, what she calls the institutional lefties, which I think that's a fair critique. I think that is a fair critique to argue that, especially since he does claim to be a communist, but he's making his brand about, his proximity to the squad members and being able to protect them and be anti, dumb left, which I hate that terminology. And basically making his money by being a left gatekeeper. So that critique I completely understand. And I tend to agree with her because those are the most prominent leftists in the independent media right now. So I completely understand and I kind of agree with that critique. What is your reaction to it?
I agree. Like, if you want to critique him to me, like, I'm not saying don't go after Haas for anything. If you want to go after him for his stances, feel free. But don't go after him because he owned a house.
Yeah.
That's and just because he was able to, attain a large audience and monetize that doesn't make him a grifter. Mm-hmm. If he has changed his position, because again, okay, so not again. I just realized I never said this. I used to watch Haas back when he first started doing Twitch streaming. Like, I watched him when he was on TYT, and then when he left TYT and made the transition to first starting on Twitch, and I watched like his first couple of like Twitch streams, not the whole thing, but like, a little here and there. But I haven't really watched him since then. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like, if he is against Force the Vote, I don't know, because I haven't been paying attention. If he's against Force the Vote, or if he's against, like, if he's defending the squad no matter what, go after him for that. What I'm saying is go after him for something of substance. Mm-hmm. But to me, it feels very, like, the whole like, oh, he paid so much for a house. That's reminiscent of of like back in the day when people would act like, oh, because I buy an album, I'm entitled to know every single thing about Michael Jackson. Or like, because I paid to see a movie in the theater, I'm entitled to know every single thing about Tom Cruise. No, you're not. You're entitled to the content that you paid for. You don't own these people. Where there's a problem on Twitch?
Mm-hmm. I've seen that happen a lot lately. I don't know why we're constantly having a problem.
I don't know. I'm gonna check.
I mean, thank you, Noli.
Nope, we're up there.
Yeah, so
It's
Nerdolitics
a problem, but
streams
it's
Nerdolitics streams every Monday, 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific and 4 to 6 Eastern. So you always know where to find us, guys. Yeah,
See,
I mean, Gene. Yeah,
Gene just said Hassan is an opportunist and seems fake to me. Okay, then go after
that's
him
your
for
opinion.
that.
Yeah,
That's yeah. So I'm not saying like there's no reason to criticize the guy.
Yeah.
Never said that. I'm just saying stay out of people's personal lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
okay.
make it. Yeah, exactly. Make it about substance. Don't make it about personalities.
Yes.
100%. All right. So, Bad Batch. Let's talk Bad Batch.
Okay, so we missed 2 episodes because we
Mhm.
didn't talk about the second to last episode, and we also didn't talk about the last episode. So,
Yes.
do you want to do the recap or do you want me to do it?
You go right ahead.
Okay, so where we left off, I think, was Hunter getting captured, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Crosshair has Hunter,
Mhm.
and they're on Camino. It's so sad now in retrospect. So Crosshair has Hunter, and he like admits, yeah, this was a trap. I thought I'd catch all of you, but I knew I'd catch at least you. But don't worry, because since I caught you and you're the leader, the rest are gonna come get you.
Mhm.
Which is amazing that he thought he just knew that would happen, even though he's like, you didn't come back for me. And Hunter was like, you were shooting at our heads. Like, what do you mean come back for you? You were actively trying to kill us. Like, we had to leave you. We tried to get you to come back, but, you know, the whole you tried to murder us thing kind of threw a wrench in that. So then we get to see... I kind of want to, like... I'm fast forwarding through it because I want to go back. I want to go to the end episode because it's, like, so good.
I know.
But, okay.
But it's a two-parter. It's a two-part finale. So.
Yes. Okay, so what happens after that? After they get him? Because I just want to go like to what happens on Camino. So, who did they rescue? Oh, they rescued Gregor, right?
Yeah, they rescued Gregor on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they rescued Gregor and then dropped him off with Sid, who has to be pissed because they deviated from a mission that she had sent them on to go get Gregor. And then they drop off Gregor but haven't done the mission. And now they're still not going to do the mission because they're going to go get Hunter. Mm-hmm. And Hunter keeps trying to be like, don't come get me. Like, this is very clearly a trap. Do not come get me. Leave me to my fate. And Omega's like, we're going to get him. I don't give a shit. What happens next? We're getting him. Because he's clearly her favorite brother. So I think she's like, it's tied between Hunter and Wrecker for her. Mm-hmm. So she goes to get they come up with a plan, and I keep blanking out because I really want to go to the last episode. I don't remember what happened in the second to last episode except for they were supposed to go get him.
Yeah, so basically Crosshair, turns on his beacon. That way they're tracking Hunter. And they go to Camino.
Yes.
And they basically slide through very stealthily because they're like, they know that we're coming. Like, Crosshair knows that we're going to come for Hunter. So we need to be as sneaky about this as humanly possible. So we can't just land in, I don't know what the name of the city is, but so I'll just call it Camino City. But so they can't land in Camino City. So
Wait,
but
you jumped ahead to the next episode, didn't you?
well, no, because they were on Camino. Remember the very end. They are destroying Camino.
Right. Okay. Oh, you know what? I know what we forgot. Nala, the fate of Nala Se.
Yeah, now let's say.
Yeah, she ends up. They are evacuating Camino, and they take her. Which that happened like the episode before, the second to last one. And then they take her. In the second to last one, we discover that she goes to a mountain facility, and a woman steps out to greet her who has the exact same uniform on as the dude from The Mandalorian, who was from the cloning facility. And they were like, "Oh, welcome!" And of course, they have all her technology because they took all of it and brought it to this area. And people who read the expanded universe are like, "Ooh, Luke!" Yeah, not Luke. Luke. So, that's how I used to pronounce that. Luke is a clone of Luke Skywalker.
Ooh.
And he was one of the first clones that was successful to have Force sensitivity. And
and this is why in The Mandalorian why they want
Grogu. Yeah.
Because they want to do the same thing to Grogu is, basically steal as much of his blood as they can, so that way they can try to clone a Force sensitive person.
It's all about the metachlorians.
Because I think this is how we were on our way to Snoke.
I think they're not going to get Snoke. I think that they're going instead of giving us Snoke, they're going the expanded universe way, and they're just going to clone Palpatine directly.
Interesting.
And because I think was the one with Luke. I keep saying that, by the way, because it's literally spelled Luuuke. So it's not Luke, it's Luke. Which is the dumbest shit ever, but that's the name.
That's funny.
Yeah. So there's a cloning facility where there were like tons of Palpatine clones. So he does not canonically, it's expanded universe. He does come back, but not the way they did it in The Rise of Skywalker. Anyhow, so that's I just wanted to throw that in there. Okay, so now we're on Camino, which is just called Camino. Like that's the name of that city. Although it's Cloud City, but on a water planet.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Omega called it something else. Like it's definitely something city. So I'm just gonna call it Camino City. But so they can't land in the city. So because Omega knows the planet she's been in Nala Se's laboratory. So she was basically Nala Se's assistant. And she was there. So we'll learn in just a second. I'll actually hold on to that thought for a second. But so they land on a platform that is far away from the city. That way they're not being tracked. It's like they're basically being as stealthy as possible. So they land on this platform in the middle of the sea. And it turns out that platform leads them to Nala Se's laboratory. And we find out that's where the
Secret
clones...
laboratory.
Yeah, her secret laboratory.
Yeah.
And this is where Clone Force 99 was created. They were not mistakes. They were created as they were supposed to be. And Omega had been there the entire time as they were being created, when they were birthed, as they were developing. So really, Omega is much older than what she looks. She's not a child. She's actually...
She's a
I don't know
child.
if they... Yeah, but I don't know if they, slowed her development or something. I don't know how old she is.
No.
Because, usually takes about 10 years to develop a clone.
She's not a child.
Adulthood.
She's not older than she looks. She is her age. The clones, when they create the clones, they age them up quickly because it would take far too long to grow a clone from childhood to adulthood. So they basically they're born. As soon as they're born, they're aged up to teenage or to about 13, and then from there they're aged up to adult. She has not been aged up. She was just born and raised by Nala Singh. Yeah. That's why she's older, even though she looks younger. So she looks like she's like 13. She's probably about 13. Meanwhile, the Bad Batch look like grown-ass adults, but they're probably about 7.
Yeah.
So that's the main difference. So she is technically quite a bit older than them, but she's just the actual age. Like she's just like with what's the Boba? She's Omega. The Alpha is Boba Fett. She and Boba Fett were they're unaltered clones. So they were born and then allowed to grow up without. They don't have inhibitor chips. They don't have. They weren't aged up at all. So she just grew up the normal way. Whereas the other clones, like I said, they're maybe just 7 years old, but they feel like adults because they're aged up so fast.
Yeah, though it does seem like Omega was enhanced at least a little bit, as opposed to Boba.
Yeah, she was enhanced like the rest of them, but she doesn't have an inhibitor chip, and she wasn't aged up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So not really a direct clone, but as direct as Boba.
Yes.
Because Boba was not, changed at all.
Right.
Anyway. So they're in Nala Se's laboratory. Then they take basically an underwater pipe, that's going to take them all the way to the city without being seen, and they're going to basically go into Kamino City in order to save Hunter. And they are able to get him out, but then they come across. Damn it! Why do you keep barking, guys? Hold on.
I love the moment I go to you, the dogs are like, "Oh, we're in now!" She did it!
Doggy orchestra! Doggy orchestra! Yeah, so, okay. Alright, good, they're silent now. So, they go to get Hunter. They get him out, but then they come across Crosshair. And Crosshair is basically saying, like, you all turned on me. You didn't think that you could save me or whatever, and you just left me behind. And we find out, because they're like, no, but your inhibitor chip. And he's like, I had that removed quite some time ago. Like, I have no inhibitor chip. This is just me. It's like, oh, mic drop moment. So we learn that Crosshair doesn't have an inhibitor chip. This is just, which he did at the beginning of the season, which is what confused me, considering they did warp his brain a little bit. But the way they made it seems like, okay, how long? And now the damn lawnmower. People are just, like, messing with me today. Not cool.
So my question is, did he really? Because
well, we definitely saw the scar on the side of his head, so we knew that he had
was from an accident from earlier in the season. Remember, he was badly injured when he was trying to go after the Bad Batch, and like we thought he was dead, but then he came back and he just had the scar on the side of his head. That's why I said, did he really?
Yeah.
He did, who removed it for him? Because he's working for the Empire. They will not remove his inhibitor chip. Why would they ever do that?
Yeah.
So
well, here's my theory. Here's my theory is that he had it removed, but because it had been in his mind so long and it had already basically warped his thinking, that once they removed it, it didn't really matter. So he still would have had those same thoughts regardless, because his mind had already been warped to such an extent that removing it made no difference.
Interesting theory. I tend to think it's the other way. I don't think that he actually had it removed. I think that they told him that it was removed, and that they didn't. Because again, he's working with the Empire. They have zero incentive to do that. What they could have done was
we will find out next season.
Yeah, they could have cranked it up so high that they made him believe that he didn't have an inhibitor chip.
Maybe.
And again, we wouldn't know because on the side of his head, where the inhibitor chip was. That was where he had the accident, where he got scarred from the accident. It was like, I don't remember the episode, but it was the title of the episode, but it was the episode where they were in they were on the planet like right after Rex left, and they were still there from them removing their own inhibitor chips, and he was coming after them. And that's how he got that scar. So it could be that, and remember after that, he was down for a little while because he had to be fixed. So it could be that he had it taken out then, or it could be that they told him that they had to take it out, but they didn't. To make him think that it was all him, but he could be still, to make him believe that it was his own will, so that he could convince them to do it, especially with the Empire realizes that they took their inhibitor chips out, or that they, didn't even work. I don't think this is removed. I think he still has it.
That's very interesting. I hope that we find that out next season. Because I think...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think either one could be true. So I think it'll be interesting to find out next season. So now we have, in order to basically rescue the entire crew, Omega is in this room with all these droids, and with AZ, who was the robot, Nella Sazel assistant robot. So they're turning on all of these droids and all these droids are going to go into this room below where
it's the battle room.
It's basically a battle room.
Yeah.
So
you recognize that droid?
Which droid?
He is from Clone Wars. He's the one. Remember when Fives figured out about his about the inhibitor chips in the first place? That's the droid that was involved in that.
Yeah. I love that little droid.
Yeah.
Matt, we're going to talk about time travel in a little bit. We'll get there. There will be time travel. I promise. So they set off all these droids, and basically Crosshair turns, and basically they work as a team to take on all these droids. And so it's kind of a question of like, okay, so is Crosshair on our side? Is he not on our side? And there's just a lot of confusion there.
Well, because what happened was when he was talking to them, they were like, "Oh, you're gonna kill us," and he said, "If I wanted to kill you, I'd have done it by now. I could have done it a long time ago." Yeah. And he pulls the classic like Vader swap, like join me.
Yeah. So basically, he wants them to join
Omega,
the Empire.
Activates the droids that are gonna come after him. And my favorite part of that scene was when Tech looks around and he sees these like reflectors all over the place, and then he's like, "Huh," because he realizes what Crosshair is gonna do.
Oh yeah, when they're running down the hallway.
No, when they were standing there. So before those droids hit, remember before the droids were activated, Crosshair was standing there talking to them, right? And while Crosshair's talking, Tech turns around and he looks, and he sees all these reflectors that are like intricately placed all around them, and then he realizes what Crosshair is going to do. Yeah,
because it's not the first time that Crosshair's done it. Like, I actually rewatched the last season of Clone Wars, and in one of the episodes that features the Bad Batch, he basically, he and Wrecker are basically having a competition on, like, how they can kill the most people, and he, like, throws all these reflectors in the hallway, and makes one shot, and it bounces across the hallway and kills all of the droids, and Wrecker's just like...
Yeah, like, that's what. So that's how Tech sees the reflectors, and now he knows what he's going to do. Crosshair is about to do. So, and at the time, the droids haven't gone up yet, but they have been surrounded by Imperial forces, like actual people, not clones.
The stormtroopers.
Right, and when
the PK troopers
talking, and the order comes through, which by the way that we'll go to a mindset about Crosshair that we'll get to at the end of the episode. But when the order comes through from the Empire, kill the Bad Batch, Crosshair fires off one shot, and it goes around and kills every single stormtrooper in the room. And okay, so now continue. Now that's when.
So now when the droids come in,
Now the droids come in, and my favorite was when Omega was like, "I may have activated too many droids."
Poor girl. Poor Omega. She's just like, oops, I may have been a little overzealous here. I might kill my brothers.
But it was really cool to see one last time the whole Bad Batch in action.
Yeah.
Because she's not with them at this time. She and the other little droid
and Easy,
are off. They're actually on another level, and it's the Bad Batch all together with Crosshair fighting all these droids, and it was like, yay, we got Bad Batch action.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but now they're fighting. Like, basically, the general that was in charge of evacuating Camino, he's now fleeing, and yes, Holly, very good. And so they're fleeing, and he's just like, well, what about Crosshair? I don't remember which clone leader he was. I don't remember. What, that wasn't Cody, was it? I don't remember.
Who?
The clone, the other clone that he was talking to, who was like, what about Crosshair? And I think it was a clone. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah,
but I know he asked, like, well, what about Crosshair? It's like, he can die with the rest of them.
That wasn't a clone. That was a stormtrooper.
Okay. I couldn't remember. Like, everything's kind of blurred. Everything blurs together at some point.
Okay, so that was
Sometimes.
a stormtrooper because at that time, because at the time, like, the episode starts with all these Imperial ships coming into, just like in Star Wars where they like just show up. They all come into the airspace in front of Camino, and when so there was one clone trooper outside, or not clone trooper, stormtrooper. There's one stormtrooper outside, and they see, like, they rush in, and all they see is Crosshair fighting with the Bad Batch against all of the training droids, and she just says, "Crosshair's joined them. What do I do?" And or Crosshair, she said Crosshair's fighting with fighting droids with the Bad Batch, and the command was, "Get back on the ship. We're about to blow this bitch up." And that's when she was like, well, "What about Crosshair?" And he was like, what he said was the something about like only the important clones will survive, meaning the ones that are on the ship, meaning there's no clone that he gives a damn about, including Crosshair.
Right.
And he let them die with them. So they all get on their ships, and then they take off, and as soon as they reach level, he sends the order, and what's so fucked up is it is clones that have to blow up Camino.
Yeah.
Which is where they came from. That's
like,
so sad.
Like, imagine being asked to blow up your own home.
Your own home.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's insane. So yeah, that's and then that's the end of the second to last episode, because the first episode starts, or the last episode, sorry. The last episode starts with they've just started bombing Camino, and I mean laying waste.
And there's the city's just like falling into the ocean.
Yes.
We're just like, oh, are they going to survive? Wait until next week to find out.
Yeah, so it's very much a cliffhanger. And then it starts out so at first we just see, like, the end of the episode starts on the ships, and you see like everything kind of falling, and then the last episode begins with them talking, and Crosshair's still like, "I'm gonna bring you in," and everybody's like,
"Join the Empire."
They're literally blowing up Camino, knowing you're still here. They don't give a fuck about you. Move on, homie. And he was just like, "Nope, I'm gonna bring you in." And they were like, "Okay, look, we can argue about this later. We're all about to die." So,
so then now the city is like being blown to shreds. The buildings are falling into the ocean. They're sliding all around, and the water's just coming in. And so now, like, some of the, like, they're trapped, like, and Omega's trapped in another room with Crosshair. Like, they're trapped in one room. The other Bad Batch members are stuck in another room. So now they have to get them out of there. Crosshair is trapped, and Omega and AZ are rescuing Crosshair. So basically, Omega and AZ save Crosshair's life as they're almost about to drown.
Oh yeah, we forgot one part. When he came when he captured like the rest of the Bad Batch. Once they got there, he knew where Omega was, and he told his soldiers. They were like, "Oh, we found Omega," and he was like, "Yeah, put her on the ship." So he could have had her killed, but he chose. He was like, "Put her on her ship and send her back to the Empire." And or no, he didn't. I'm sorry, he didn't tell you to send her back to the Empire. He said, "Put her on a ship and send her like somewhere else."
Yeah,
and essentially,
and one of the things that he said was like she doesn't belong with you guys.
Right, and everybody some people thought that was mean, but that was actually really nice because if he sent her to the Empire, she would have died because they would have dissected her. But instead, he was like, just send her out into space somewhere. She can go live somewhere else and not be with you guys.
Yeah, very true.
So now, like, it's kind of like Omega returning the favor and saving his life. And Omega's very much like a military person of like, we leave no one behind. Yeah. And then the compartment that they were in starts getting flooded. Meanwhile, where the Bad Batch is, it's still not flooded yet. But of course, once they open it,
the
to
door
let
is
them
shut.
in, it's gonna get flooded.
Yeah.
So they managed to get them out, and
so now it's basically a race against time as to whether or not they can go back to their ship.
Yeah, also, how do they get back to their ship? Because, everything's blown up. Because they go through the tube that they tried to get through. And so before, when they went in, their tube had, like... It's kind of like a car. Like, if you've seen... what's it called? Blade Runner. Blade Runner 2049. You know, when they get in those cars, and then the cars are kind of like an elevator to take you through a tube. That's how they got there from their ship. But of course, all that's blown clean the fuck up. So the tubes that are underwater, because like when they landed on the platform, by the way, was not in the water. You can't see it. You have to land. You have to come like hover right above the water, and then the platform rises up to you, and then you can go inside. And when you go in, you can go inside this like little tube thing, and the tube is completely underwater. And because the tube is underwater, they weren't shooting at it, so the tube itself is fine. Except the buildings of Camino have now crashed into it, and so it's starting to flood, and there are
cracks all over the place.
Yeah, and there are these giant ass like horrors that are in the ocean. They're like the size of.
You remember the giant water? Remember the giant water dinosaur in Jurassic World? Kind of like that.
The mosasaur.
The mosasaur, kind of like the mosasaur, yeah.
Yeah.
Although a lot scarier.
But a lot bigger. A lot scarier. Because this animal thing literally could fit the entire tube that they were standing in its mouth. And it crunches down trying to bite them. And it turns out the reason why it wasn't messed up before is because when the electricity is on, which it's not now because everything's been blown up, but when the electricity was on, there's like a pulse that keeps it, makes it so that like,
yeah, it's basically a shield. Yeah, basically a shield for the tube. Yeah.
So, but now there's no power. So, giant fish things can come try to eat you.
Yes.
So
AZ now has to like really rush and try to turn the electricity back on in the tube to try to protect the Bad Batch and Crosshair.
Yes. I love how you say the Bad Batch and Crosshair. Like he's not part of the Bad Batch anymore. He's done now.
Well, he's not. He's not a member of the Bad Batch anymore. And even at the end of the episode, he's decided to go on his own way. So, which, spoiler for the end of the episode. But
you keep jumping to the end. Like, next season!
But yeah, so AZ has turned the electricity on momentarily in order to electrocute the giant water dinosaur. And now they're able to go up the tube to try to get up to Nalise's laboratory and the platform. Right, did I miss anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aside from, like... Isn't Crosshair injured? Is Crosshair injured?
I don't think so.
I think he was for, like, the beginning, for, like, a couple minutes, because they had to, like...
Because like, first they knocked him out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they didn't knock him out because they were going to take him with him.
Yeah, they
And then
stun
he
him.
wakes up when, as the whole room is crashing together, and he wakes up trapped. And
Right.
about to drown.
And then they go to the other tube, and they end up they go through the thing, and they end up somehow, which this is kind of crazy. Somehow they end up in their room. Like,
Yeah.
how does that even work? So
Yeah, at one point they ended up in their barracks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when they start arguing again. And Crosshair's like, you got to join the Empire, and she doesn't belong with you guys. And an interesting thing happens. Tech agrees with Crosshair on merit, but not like, so he basically is like, you're right, that doesn't mean I like, basically saying like he's right, that doesn't mean you're right. You know? Like you're right technically, but not necessarily morally.
Yeah.
And then they realize that like they only have so much oxygen, so they have to surface at some point. But and they figure out that the tubes that basically were their birthing tubes, or I don't know if those were their birthing tubes or if they were where they were grown. Because remember,
probably where they were grown, because they were kind of big tubes.
Big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the birthing tubes
not big
were,
enough to
like,
fit
the size of
Wrecker
babies.
though.
Yeah. So they're aging tubes basically, where Nala Singh was was experimenting on them. They realized that those tubes could serve. They're, even though these guys are heavy, they're light enough that they could surface, even two at a time. So I don't know why Wrecker didn't have Omega, because wouldn't that have made sense? Or just let Wrecker be by himself and then Omega go with some. But whatever. For some reason, Omega's the one by herself.
Yeah, and I mean Wrecker's by himself too, because he's the only one who can fit in his tube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
you
like,
have
the others
Hunter.
had to do
Yeah.
tube. But I'm saying, like, wouldn't it make sense to have somebody like
Crosshair
Echo?
by himself.
Yeah, wouldn't it make sense to have like Echo and Omega be in the same tube, because she's small and he's small, and that like they would have had more room, as opposed to having two grown ass men together, like smashed together.
Right.
So,
but yeah. One of the other things too is that because all the electricity is out, AZ is losing power. Is also another thing that they're about to face.
And the other issue is these tubes will get them to the surface, but they can't navigate. They can just
because
go
it's
straight
too
up.
dark and there's so much debris.
Yep. And by debris we mean literally a city falling into the ocean. So
like Atlantis style.
yeah, because at the time during all of this, the Empire is still firing. They are not leaving until everything has been destroyed, and they're just like rapid fire, just destroying all of Kamino, which is entirely sad. And so AZ, who's very light on battery, everybody gets in their tubes, they get released. He has to go up and
because there's no way they can get to
through.
the platform, even from Nalisay's laboratory, because that's now all being destroyed.
Yeah. So he sees like debris coming, and he's got to go and push one tube out of the way, and then spin around and go to the next tube and push them out of the way, and also navigate them to the ship. Because again, they're just going to go straight up, or maybe like get tossed about. So he's got to, avoid big obstacles and push them in the right direction, make sure they don't go off into the middle of the ocean somewhere. Yeah. So he's doing a really good job, and he spins a little too late and almost gets hit, and then he almost runs out of power.
Yeah, because he almost gets hit, but that big piece of debris hits Omega's tube and starts pushing her back down. Yeah. So he has to then go and cut that piece in half. That way he can start pushing her back up.
And
but then,
about halfway through pushing her up, he loses power. And Omega's like, okay, he's pushed her up enough. There's no more debris. She can surface, but she's like, no man left behind. So she opens her tube and goes and gets him. And meanwhile, everybody else has surfaced, and everybody's talking. Everybody like, where is she? And she's like, I'm going to get him. And she goes in to get him. And Hunter's like, no. And then Crosshair pulls out his gun, which is hilarious to me. That like he not only went in the tube with, because I think he was with
he was
Tech.
with Hunter. Was he with Tech or was he with Hunter? I don't remember.
I thought he was with Tech. But he he was with somebody.
But he's now.
But he's also in there with his rifle.
I think he was in there with Hunter because Hunter's like no, and he turns around and he's got the gun. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna shoot Hunter.
Oh no, he's he's got the gun and then he's aiming into the water. And I think you're right. It might have been Hunter because he pulled his knife because he was going to kill him if he tried to kill her. And what he does is he shoots like a magnet, and he ends up hitting. So Omega's got AZ. Yeah. He shoots a magnet that hits AZ and pulls them out of the water.
Yeah.
And when they surface, everybody looks at him like.
Yeah. So basically, like paying her back, like because they saved his life when he was about to drown, but now so he's basically repaying the favor.
Yes. But I love the look on like the rest of the Bad Batch's faces, like we almost had to end you. Like if you took her out, we're gonna take you out. Like, so then they all end up on top of the platform, and they're like, okay, let's go. Now, mind you, by the time they get to the platform, it's daylight, and the Empire has finally stopped shooting because now everything is in the water, and they're like, all right, cool, we're out, and they leave. Yeah. And so they get on top of this platform, and they're like, okay, let's go, let's get on the ship. And which is, to me, the thing that's amazing is the fact that the Empire didn't detect the ship. Right. Because at this point, the Empire is like out hovering above the planet. They should be able to see that ship. But then, and they left it there. Either that or they probably assumed like, oh, they're all dead anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But they get to the ship and they're like, okay, let's go. And Crosshair was like, no, I'm staying with the Empire. And then they have, a conversation and everything. And Omega's like, without pleading, like her eyes are like, get on the fucking ship. He doesn't. It's
like these are your brothers. We're family.
We're all brothers. Yep. And he remains stubborn, and they leave. And here's the thing that gets me: how the hell is Crosshair going to get off of that planet?
Right? Yeah.
Because the Empire just left his ass, and his only other ride off. Like I personally would have at least gone with them to get to the next planet, and then been like, "No, fuck y'all, I'm leaving."
Right, and then parted ways.
Now you have options. You can call a cab if you want. Whatever.
Right. It's like, how the hell is he going to get off that planet? How?
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Like, he doesn't even have any, like, does he have a homing beacon? Like, what? How is he going to... Yeah. So, anyway, that's the Bad Batch. And, like she said, there is going to be a second season. And because... So, we're going back to when I was like, yeah, we'll visit that later. Remember when he decided to kill the other stormtroopers and he was like, join me? I'm wondering if he's going...
Come to the dark side of the Force.
Yes. It's so funny because when you said that, I thought you said the dog side because your dogs were barking. And I'm like, yes, come to the dog side of the Force. We have biscuits.
Put that on a shirt. Come to the dog side of the Force. We have biscuits. I love it. Like, that is totally getting tweeted like in a tweet.
Vader helmet, or like not Darth Vader helmet, but like a dog and like a Darth and Emperor Palpatine cloak.
Oh my god! I totally have a picture
on his paw.
Dude, like, I totally have a picture of my dog in my sweater looking like a Jedi. I will send it to Robin, and Robin can make it into an awesome shirt.
Yes, Robin.
Robin.
There you go. Come to the dog side of the Force.
We have biscuits.
Yes. We're such dorks. Okay.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
So,
this is now a thing.
So I think in season 2, we might see that, like, I think in the beginning he's going to try really hard to rejoin the Empire and then realize just how expendable he is, and then eventually change his mind and rejoin the Bad Batch. So that's why I'm still...
Or maybe he can become a bounty hunter.
He could, but I'm still considering... I mean, they're all bounty hunters, so...
Touche.
So,
but, I mean, he could go independent.
He could, but he works best with a team, though. Because he's literally had a team his whole life.
Yeah, you got a good
And
point there.
even Boba Fett, like with the Clone Wars, when Boba Fett was first became a bounty hunter, he had a whole team behind him.
That's true.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to see. Also, I want to know if in season 2 we're going to get to see Boba Fett.
Ooh.
He should be a little
Because
bit
he's still
older.
young. Yeah.
He should be a little bit older than Omega is, because I have a feeling the reason why Omega's like she's so she's like a purified version is because right after Alpha, which is Boba Fett, was commissioned by Jango Fett to be raised as a son. And I'm wondering if they were like, let's do a female at the same time.
Maybe.
Because I'm
just
pretty
didn't tell
sure he
him.
was still alive when Omega was born. That's how old she is. So
true.
Which isn't that like it's not that long ago, because he only died like maybe 5-6 years ago in canon.
Yeah, because
he dies in not even 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, not
he
even,
died,
because
like,
that was
2
Attack
years
of the
ago.
Clones. Yeah, because there was like
he
a
dies
span
in Attack of the Clones,
like 3 years between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Okay, so this Bad Batch takes place during Revenge of the Sith. So it's been 3 years since Jango Fett was. So she was commissioned while Jango Fett was still alive. So
interesting. So does Boba know that she's alive? Does he know that she's a thing?
Maybe we'll find out in season 2. What if they know about each other? Speaking of what if, you like that segue?
Yes. Segue. What if?
Marvel's What If. We're gonna talk about it. Damn it, we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week.
We just did Star Wars What If. Now we're doing Marvel What If.
Okay, so
why did you become quiet all of a sudden? My like volume went all weird. Then you became like really quiet.
I became really quiet?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I feel like it's my volume. Just like all of a sudden everything became quieter.
Weird.
It was very strange. It's very strange.
Okay. I want to talk about episode 2. I'm gonna let you talk about episode 1.
Okay. I can talk about episode 1. Okay, so Marvel's What If. We have Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. And he's talking about how time is a prism and just all these different little changes. And of course, I do think that What If is basically taking off from, the multiverse splitting up during Loki. And that's one of the reasons I do like the way... Be quiet. The way that they lined up.
She's the dog whisperer now.
Apparently they don't listen. Although... Oh, good. Matthew sent me memes. Okay.
Not the memes!
We love memes. Come on,
I love memes, but Matthew's memes are always goofy ass memes.
Oh, come on. They're fun.
Okay, so back to What If.
Wait.
What?
Matthew, where are the memes? I don't see the memes. Oh, there they are. Okay, got the memes. Okay. Alright, so... Okay, those are more related to the next episode. So I will bring these up when Jackie's talking about the next episode. So we're in the multiverse. We're in the multiverse. And so I love that this show followed right after Loki, because now we have all those branches of the multiverse splitting off, and so that prism that the Watcher is talking about is really starting to form and like start to crack. And I love all the different cracks in the prism to show just how much we have different lenses in the prism that are going to show us what if you make this choice, then it will crack and become a different multiverse. It will crack if you make this choice. So we start off, the very first episode is Captain Carter, which I loved this episode. Wait, hold on. I said 2 posts, 1.
Yeah, he's saying scroll down a bit.
One for each episode. I didn't see that one. Oh, maybe it's just in my notifications. I didn't see it. But anyway, so we are in... Oh, here it is. Okay. So we are in the episode where it's talking about Captain America. But then, okay, so what if we had this slight little change? And all this little change was because in the movie, Peggy decides, like, oh, Miss Carter, you might be more comfortable up in the booth. And so she goes up to the booth in the movie. But here, she says, no, I think I'll stay over here. Although I thought it was really strange that she and everyone else also stayed. That made no sense. Like, okay, but all those people are also in the booth. So they all decided to stay in the room?
I think what happened was when she decided to stay, remember, she's the woman. So if the woman thinks it's okay to be down here, then I can certainly be down here.
Interesting. Okay. But so she decides to stay. And she sees the guy with the lighter who is about to... he doesn't blow anything up until after the experiment's already done. But he decides to flick his lighter before the experiment. She sees him doing it, so she goes after him. And he starts blowing things up. Henriksen he's already gone. But so little Steve is trying to stop the shooter. He gets shot himself. So he's too injured. And we do get that same shot of, when Peggy is like aiming at the car and shooting at the car, but this time it's in the room and she shoots him, kills him. So she gets to kill him in this time. And so now Steve is on the ground after being shot. And they're like, no, we have to finish this experiment before everything blows up. So Steve, get back in the machine. They're like, no, he's too injured. Like, okay, Stark, you get in the machine. I'm the guy who pushes the button. And I love that. I loved that comment because it's a good callback for later on in the episode. But so Carter's like, okay, I'll do it. It's like, no, you're a woman. You can't do it. She's like, screw you. So she hops in the machine. She's like, okay, Stark, go. And has the experiment and she becomes Captain Carter. And I thought it was interesting that even they made her bulk up almost like I thought it was interesting that they almost made her almost like She-Hulk in a way, is that she also bulked up and became taller and broader. And so basically very very much like a She-Hulk or Wonder Woman. She's much stronger. But again, they don't want her to be the super soldier, and so they start sticking her with needles trying to draw her blood. That way they can recreate the serum, because obviously all the serum is in her and Henriksen is dead. So she's like, I'm worth much more than just being a pincushion, and so they're stealing all her blood. Like, no, we don't want you to be the super soldier. You shouldn't even have been in the room. And so that becomes a big theme in the episode of, who's allowed to be in the room. And, that's kind of callback later on when Peggy is, basically laying out a plan, and she's like, she tells that same guy later on, you're lucky to even be in the room. What the hell are you doing here? So she is kind of despondent, and Steve makes a funny comment. It's like, you know what, you're lucky that, they're not sending you off to do one of those USO shows. It's like, he would do that? Because that's exactly what happened to Steve, but that doesn't happen to Peggy. But Stark does make her, here's your USO costume that, they would have put you in. And she's like, I don't like all this branding. He's like, well, then you're really not going to like this. And he slams down the shield and it's got the British flag on it and everything. She's like, I don't like all this iconography. He's like, well, you're really not going to like this then. And so she basically becomes Captain Carter. They go after... is the one who goes and rescues the Howler... I can't remember what... The Howling Commandos. She goes and rescues the Howling Commandos and the rest of the 107.
Yeah, because Steve tells her... So in Captain America the First Avenger, it was Steve himself who went after him. Mm-hmm. But now he tells her... they're having a romantic dinner. And he tells her, hey, my buddy Bucky was is part of the 107th, and he hasn't come back. So then she decides to go get him. So she's the one who rescues them instead.
Yeah. And also what's a little different here is that whenever they found Bucky before, he was being experimented on. Here, he was in the cage with the rest of the Howling Commandos. So it was also a little different. So she kicks a lot of ass. Like, I loved the way they made her move in this episode, because, like, she kicked a lot of ass. And, so she goes and she rescues the Howling Commandos, and now she's basically leading them. And poor Steve, he's like, you know what, I wish I could help, but, I'm still this little guy. So, and they also are able to get the Tesseract. So they track down not Zemo. What is
Zola?
Zola, thank you. Yeah, Zola. So they track down Zola, and they kidnap Zola, and they get their hands on the Tesseract. So now that they have the Tesseract, Stark has decided, okay, I'm going to use the Tesseract for a little experiment, and he makes the first Iron Man outfit. And Steve gets to be the first Iron Man. So I don't know how Tony's going to feel about that in this universe. Because now he's not the first Iron Man. Steve Rogers was the first Iron Man. And Peggy was Captain Carter. So he no longer has that claim to fame of, creating Iron Man. His dad created Iron Man. And so now Peggy and Steve are now like this power couple, and they're able to fly around. And I loved the scene where she's taking out all those German planes, and that Steve is coming around and like picking her up, and that they're going all over the place together. I thought that was really awesome. Oh, I love this. I think Peggy was much more of a badass with the shield than Cap. I mean, there was definitely a lot that she did in this episode that, like, I really want them to be able to do this type of action in live action. Because they did so much more, I feel, with the shield and with what Peggy was able to do. Like, she had so much confidence as Captain Carter that even, like, I love Steve, but, like, they gave her so much more confidence in that role than they gave Steve. I don't know if you felt that way too, but
they absolutely did. But there's a reason for that. Keep going.
Yeah. So I don't know if we just want to kind of fast forward a little bit. So
yeah,
they ended up on the train scene again, the one where Bucky died in the movie, or Bucky died. So we have Iron Man Steve going to do recon of the train, and he sees a bunch of explosives on the train, and he starts telling us, Peggy, no, it's a trap. The train explodes, there's an avalanche, and we think, oh my god, maybe Steve is dead. But, she's on the mountain with the rest of the Howling Commandos, and what's funny is, like, they landed on top of the train, and Bucky slipped, but she caught him, and he makes a joke like, he almost ripped my arm off.
Yeah, because she caught him by the arm and, like, basically threw him back on.
Yeah, which I thought was a funny callback. He was like, yeah, well, in the other universe, you did have your arm ripped off, just in a very different way. But so, it was a cool callback. And so, now that Steve has blown up, they all jump off the train, and the train collapses off the track, avalanche. They think Steve is dead. So now they have to go to Red Skull's castle and try to stop him, because now he has the Tesseract again, because the Tesseract was in the Iron Man suit. So he now has the Tesseract again, and he's going to try to open a portal. So they have to go to Red Skull's castle. It's amazing that so much happens in just half an hour. Like, this is basically a movie's worth of content in just, like, less than half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So they're at Zemo's castle, and
Zemo's castle?
I'm sorry.
Zemo's not even born yet, man.
I know, I'm sorry. So they're at Red Skull's castle. I'm sorry, my bad. And Red Skull has basically taken over the Hydra has now replaced the Nazis, I guess, because like they're all Hail Hydra, but instead of Hail Hitler or whatever.
That happened in the movie too, because
Yeah.
remember, in Captain America, he took over a faction of the Hydra, the Hydra faction of the Nazis.
Yeah.
Once World War II was progressing, and it looked like when Hitler kept making like really stupid decisions, then at first Hitler was like, okay, maybe Hydra's going to be our saving grace. And that's the moment when he turned on Hitler and was like, nah, fuck y'all, Hydra's its own thing. So basically that still happened in the show.
Yeah. And I agree with J7. Like, the animated action here was really, really good. It was really good. So they go into Red Skull's castle. Peggy and Stark go in one direction. They go up, and Bucky and the rest of Howling Commandos go down into another part of the castle. And they find Steve. And they find the Iron Man suit. And Peggy and Stark, they go into another area where Red Skull is, and he's opening the portal, and this giant octopus is coming out. The octopus kills Red Skull, and then is going after Peggy. She pulls out a sword, which, I'm sorry, with the sword and the shield, they basically turned into a modern Wonder Woman. They totally stole that from Wonder Woman. And so she's battling the octopus. Iron Man Steve is coming in, but then he loses power because they could only generate enough power for a short amount of time. So now Peggy has to push the octopus back into the portal that Red Skull opened. And so this is where we have that ending moment where they have to save their dance for another time. And just instead now it's Peggy going off into the Great Hydra. So she's pushing the octopus in. She goes into the portal, and it closes behind her, leaving Steve and Stark behind. And then it cuts to the future, and Nick Fury has turned on the Tesseract, and a new portal is open. She comes back out with all these tentacles flying all over the place, but she's in the future now. And she's like, oh, I guess the war is over. We must have won. But she's really despondent because, like, obviously Steve's not there to welcome her back. And that's where the episode ends. Thoughts?
Yep. So J7 says he thinks it was the Great Hydra. I thought it was Shumagorath as well. But here's the thing, like, it could still be Shumagorath because you never saw, like you said, you never saw the big eye. But the big eye is like the center, and we never saw anything but the end of the tentacles. So we don't know what it was, because we basically saw like the hand of the thing. We didn't see anything further. So maybe if we got to see the whole thing, it was Shumagorath. Maybe if we got to see it, it was something else. I don't know. We don't know. We'll probably find out because she comes back. And because did you say that? Did you mention that at the end of the episode she came back? Okay. So you really liked this episode, right?
I did like it.
Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't stand it. Okay. I thought it was stupid. So that's why I was like, you talk about that one, because I didn't like it at all.
Why didn't you like it?
I don't know. I just, for one, it was nothing but a retread of Captain America: The First Avenger. With like, to me, it was like,
I understand.
It was like, let's do Captain America: The First Avenger, but let's put all the feminist tropes that everybody hated about movies that say, hey, let's just take this male character and make it female, and then it'll be awesome. Like, that's to me what it did. And I'm like, I don't want to be pandered to. And I would have preferred if they had done it the same way they did episode 2. Because episode 2 was not a retread of Guardians of the Galaxy. It was a completely different thing. Even though it has the same characters, many different things had changed. And in this, they changed one thing, and we just basically rewatched Captain America: The First Avenger, but with Peggy being the person. And it didn't work for me.
Okay, I mean, that's fair. That's fully fair.
So, Marvel Grim Reaper. You know what, Jay? I am not the Marvel Grim Reaper. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's about to praise the hell out of episode 2, I'm assuming. So
I am, because I
let's keep some
really
praise.
liked episode 2.
But did you agree though that they tried to kind of make her at the end? They basically turned her into modern Wonder Woman.
Yes, and that's another thing. Like, to me, that's the problem with episode 1. It was the lack of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said,
I think that's a fair criticism.
It just went from the female version of Captain America to, oh, well, let's make her just Wonder Woman. And then, oh, well, wait, we still have to have somebody come back later on. Oh, well, it'll be her instead of, like, how do we get her to come back instead of Steve? Oh, she'll come back through the Tesseract.
Yeah.
And I like that. I liked it when they actually did different things. Like, the only thing that I thought was interesting was start creating the Iron Man suit, but they didn't give him a reason to create the Iron Man suit.
Yeah,
like,
I think
Iron Man,
it was more or less just because, he had the power of the Tesseract, and Steve, still being, basically, like, he couldn't become, Captain America. So it's like, okay, well, let's make Steve still feel included. So it was more about making something for Steve than anything else.
So what you're saying is, in the Superwoman power episode, they had to make the guy be something. They had to bring him along for some reason. Again, like, it's just, to me, that was weak sauce.
Yeah, it's really kind of, but again, that kind of continues that point that I made about it being basically modern Wonder Woman, because, again, it's taking place during World War II. It's a superpowered woman, but then her sidekick boyfriend, who was very supportive of her, and I loved how supportive he was of her. He was not resentful of the fact that she had power at all. He just kind of
why would he be resentful? Because he's got his own Iron Man suit. That's my point. But even before, put him on even footing.
But even before he got the Iron Man suit, he was still like, I feel, it's sad that I didn't get to become, but he didn't feel he wasn't resentful of her for having power. Even before he got the Iron Man suit, he was very supportive of her, and that's something that I really liked. But he did ultimately become like a Steve Trevor character.
I was just about to say, please tell me the difference between this and Wonder Woman, because the parts where you're like, no, this is, I'm like, that's Wonder Woman, and that's my problem. It's either the female version of Captain America or it's Wonder Woman, and there's no
basically that's what it is. It's a blending of those two things. It's female Captain America and Wonder Woman, but in one character, and that I agree is not creative.
Right. Okay, so on to episode 2, which was way better. And I
loved it. I loved all the changes in this episode. So go.
And here's what I mean. Okay, the difference is, the one difference in this episode, because it's all one decision changes everything, right? In this episode, the one decision is T'Challa as a child was very curious and wanted to go outside of the bubble, because Wakanda is inside of this hologram, right? They have this hologram that makes it seem like it's nothing but poor land. So if you fly over it, Peggy doesn't have an invisible jet. That's literally the only difference. But it's okay, because she had a flying boyfriend. Same thing.
And they're both
Steves. Yes. The only difference is that one took place during World War I, one took place during World War II.
Although in the comics it was World War II.
In the comics, yeah, but in the movies.
Yeah.
But in the comics there's no difference. So with What If episode number 2, T'Challa is he wants to explore the world, so he leaves the bubble of Wakanda.
They both have flying boyfriends. One's a pilot.
Pilots, yeah.
They're both flying boyfriends.
So in episode 2, T'Challa goes outside of the hologram, and while he's outside the hologram, that's when the Ravagers come. It happens to be 1988, and that's when the Ravagers come to pick up Peter Quill. And these idiots decide to pick up. So here's the thing: like, it could be T'Challa in canon in the MCU. T'Challa went outside the bubble. Then the one decision that changed everything was, instead of making sure he got the right kid himself, Yondu decided to put his crew in charge. and his crew were like, okay, we're looking for somebody not from Earth. So they detect the the not
Yeah,
adamantium,
like
that's Wolverine.
the radiation from the vibranium.
Vibranium. Thank you. Vibranium is from a meteor from outer space. So they detect outer space when T'Challa walks outside, he's wearing, his vibranium is lined into his clothes. They detect an extraterrestrial phenomenon, so they pick up T'Challa, who looks fuck all like Peter Quill, but they don't know.
All
so
humans look the same.
Yeah, the one change is that Yondu, instead of being the one to go pick up Quill himself, he puts his crew in charge, and his crew pick up T'Challa. And at first, Yondu's like, it's the wrong kid, and they were going to let him go. But then T'Challa's not scared because he's been in front of advanced technology. So he's like, ooh, you explored the universe? And they were like, yeah. So Yondu's like, okay, let's go. So he gives up on finding Peter Quill, and they just go throughout the universe. This is a huge change because now when we get to the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, when it's time for Peter Quill to steal the orb, instead of Peter Quill, it's time for Star-Lord to steal the orb. He steals the orb, and then, what's his name, Korath? The guy, Jaimin Hansu's character, I think his name is Korath.
Yeah, Korath.
When he comes, when he comes to get him, in the original Guardians of the Galaxy, as soon as when Star-Lord takes off his, makes his helmet go back, he's like, Star-Lord. And Korath's like, who? And in this one, all he does is make his helmet go back, and the guy goes, oh, you're Star-Lord! He starts freaking out. And he starts fanboying, and he's like, should I bow? And and that's kind of a callback to Infinity War, when Bruce Banner was like, you're a king, should I bow? And T'Challa's like, no, don't do that. And so Korath takes out his own team for him, and he's like, he's still working for Ronan, coming to get the orb, but Ronan is not working for Thanos. Why? Because Star-Lord has had a talk with Thanos, and he was able to persuade Thanos not to go the whole genocidal route in order to bring resources about. Instead, Thanos joins the Ravengers, and they all go Robin Hood. So now instead of raping and pillaging where they go, they steal from the rich, basically rich places where there are too many resources, and they give to places where there aren't enough. And so Thanos is now a good guy. One decision makes Thanos a good guy. He still wanted to do his whole genocide thing, but he gets talked out of it by T'Challa. And we get to see how the universe is vastly different just because it's T'Challa that's Star-Lord instead of Peter Quill. And I've seen a lot of people say, why would he still be named Star-Lord? I'm like, it actually makes sense if you think about it. Because T'Challa is a prince. Princes are sometimes called lords. He wanted to explore the stars. So he's the Lord of the Stars. Most likely somebody called him Lord of the Stars. Somebody else shortened it to Star-Lord. It stuck. In Peter Quill's case, his mom called him that because his father is a Celestial. So episode 2 was way cooler. They actually did Tivon justice because Tivon is the Collector in Marvel Comics, and Tivon,
man, he was so badass.
Yeah, disembodied voices are weird, man.
he was so badass. In the movies, Collector is just kind of this, kind of weird character, but here he's he's a total badass.
Yeah. So he yes, Were Pilgrim, the power of discourse. He literally says a well-placed argument. That's how he changed his mind.
I'm trying to get them into counseling. Because as Nebula, she's not all transformed. She has blonde hair. She's very film noir. And because she never had to go through all that transformation to become more cyborg, she only has a little bit. And she still doesn't like Thanos very much, and so he's like, aren't you guys related? Adopted. He's like, I'm trying to get them into therapy. I'm trying to get them into. I'm trying to get them in to see a counselor to work out their shit. Like, I'm surprised they didn't have Gamora at all in this episode.
No, there's a reason for that. Okay, so you notice when we meet Nebula, she only has the thing above her eye, and that's it. Because he got her first. And remember, every time she made a mistake, he would replace a piece of her with technology, right? Well, what happened was when she was a kid, he went and got Gamora, and Gamora was just a better fighter, so every time she lost to Gamora, she would get more. That's why she only has one, because he never went to get Gamora. And you think, well, why didn't he go get Gamora? Because he had the conversation with Star-Lord before he went to get Gamora. So Gamora's still on her land. She's still on her world.
So it was child Star-Lord who was able to convince him not to do genocide?
We don't know how old Gamora is. Remember, this is space and time is relative. So time on her planet, like, she may have been 20 years old to us, or like 30 years old to us, but maybe in real life, like, she may have been 30 years old there, but like for our planet, she might have only been 5, because again, time is relative. See our interstellar conversation about that. Because remember, in Interstellar, every time they went down to a new planet, it was like they would be down there for an hour and then get back on the ship, and 7 years had passed.
That is an interesting question, E. Heller. What did happen to the Infinity Gauntlet in Cha-Cha-verse? That's what Nebula calls him, Cha-Cha. Instead of T'Challa, Cha-Cha.
So this episode doesn't address that, but we can speculate, and what we can speculate is that it depends on what happened with Asgard, because what we see, going back to the Collector, he has like a special collection that he pulls from to be able to use weapons, and one of those weapons is Steve Rogers' shield. So it begs the question, is this in the same universe as the Peggy Carter one? Because there was no Captain America shield in the Peggy Carter one. They only have her shield, which is the Captain Britain shield. It's not the Captain Britain shield. It is Steve Rogers' shield. There's also Mjolnir that is behind that wall. He has what looks like Korg's arm. We don't know if it's Korg, but somebody from his race. And he has Hela's helmet. So he has been to Asgard, or at least he's fought Asgardians. If he did so before, so Thor Ragnarok has not happened in this situation, unless he, if he has Hela's helmet, so here's the thing. Everybody's assuming that Tivan has Mjolnir because he killed Thor. But it could be that Thor never got Mjolnir because he also has Hela's helmet. So he could have fought Hela when she had the helmet and Mjolnir, because Mjolnir was hers first. So he may never have fought Thor.
Interesting.
So if Hela's dead, maybe he killed Odin as well. But I didn't see anything to suggest that he had Odin's things. So I think a lot of people just assumed that like Ragnarok's already happened because he's got Hela's helmet and Thor's Mjolnir.
But that may not be for Mjolnir. But especially since, I mean, Thor is like 1,000 years old. Like, Star-Lord has not been in the universe that long. So I feel like it has to do with Ragnarok and not with him just defeating Hela.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about so Tivan is ages old. He's older than the universe. So
yeah, but the whole thing is that this whole change happened because T'Challa became Star-Lord. So,
true.
Like, and the only reason that
Tivan would have the hammer or that, because all of this happened, Guardians of the Galaxy canonically happened in the MCU, happens before Ragnarok. So how would he have gotten Hela's helmet? Because at the time, Hela is like in this pocket dimension, right?
Yeah.
Did he go to the pocket dimension to get it?
Okay, so your point is that when he takes power, he kills Odin, opens the pocket universe, Hela comes out, he kills Hela, and he kills Thor.
That's what you're saying. I didn't say that. I'm saying he got it before Hela was banished, when she still had Mjolnir. So Thor hasn't been born yet.
But again, that wouldn't have been affected by whether or not T'Challa became Star-Lord.
That's true. But either way, all of this happens before, because at the time this happened, because where the year of this episode is 2008. In the MCU, nothing has happened yet. 2008 is when Iron Man happened. Okay, that's like in universe. It was 2008 when Tony Stark got kidnapped, right? So that means Captain America has yet to be thought out. So how does he get the shield? Thor is still being Thor. How does he get Hela's helmet? That's what I'm saying. Like, how does he get all of this stuff if it's 2008? Then the same way, if the MCU has played out the same way, he doesn't. He can't get Captain America's shield. He can't get Hela's. The only way he can get Captain America's shield is if he went to Antarctica or wherever he was, not Antarctica, but like if he went to where Steve was frozen and took the shield. If he did that and he went to Earth, he probably destroyed Earth. But we know he didn't destroy Earth because we go to Wakanda later on. That's what I'm saying. I think what makes more sense is that this is just a separate universe, and he took the shield, or he probably took Captain America's shield before Captain America went into the ice. Like maybe he never went into the ice, he was just killed by Tivon. And I think that he took Mjolnir before Thor was even born, when Hela was still wielding it. That's how he got her helmet. Because either way, canonically, it doesn't make sense timeline. Even if you were to say like, oh well, we have to wait till 1988 happens, or 1988 is what changed everything. Okay, then please explain how he got anything. Because at this point, Steve hasn't been thought out.
And I feel like that's something that they maybe would help, is like opening like with like some kind of commentary, like, okay, how the hell did he get Steve Rogers' shield and Mjolnir and everything? Like, when exactly did that happen?
Right.
And there's also a good case to be made that since Thanos wasn't the one who was in charge of the Chitauri, maybe it was since it was Tivon who had even the Blackguard, maybe he was the one who was involved in what happened in New York. And maybe that's how, maybe he killed Captain America. And maybe he killed Thor. You never know.
New York wouldn't have happened in this timeline.
But we don't know that. Like, we don't know because...
No, we do, because Thanos is there. Remember, Thanos is the reason that Loki came to New York. So New York doesn't happen at all.
Yeah, but basically what I'm saying is that, because, since Thanos is not the big bad, Tivon is the big bad. Like, something else could have happened. Maybe Steve still came out of the ice, but Tivon killed Captain America.
Right. So my thing is, as powerful as Tivon is, why would he just kill Captain America but leave the rest of the Earth fine? That's why I'm saying I don't think he would have done that. Yeah. I think if he came to Earth, he would have destroyed a majority of it instead of just like getting Captain America's shield. So I think he fought Captain America somewhere else. That's my thought. E. Heller said that could also be Beta Ray Bill's hammer. Not if you're going by the comics, because Beta Ray Bill's hammer looks like Stormbreaker.
Yeah, it doesn't look like... That was definitely
the Stormbreaker that's in the MCU is what Beta Ray Bill's hammer looks like in the comics.
Yeah, alright, so let's finish this up. That way we can briefly get
I know. just barely get into it.
Yeah. We may have to... Is there a possibility that we can end the radio show and continue talking? That way people can hear who are watching can still get that.
I don't know.
Because I think we can.
What is this? Maybe Tivon just needed the only vibranium frisbee in existence. See, and that brings up now that you bring that up, that brings up another question. Well, why would he need, if he wanted vibranium, he already had vibranium because he has T'Challa's ship. Because we didn't really finish what happened in the episode, but T'Challa's ship is there along with a bunch of other ships. If he wanted vibranium, he could get it. So again, I don't see that happening. You know what I think what could have happened is maybe Captain America was on the ship that went to look for T'Challa, and that's how he found him. Like that's
intriguing. That's an intriguing theory.
Because the ship had no humans in it. It was just had like mannequins. that like we're sitting there. Okay, so anyway, going back to what happens in the episode. So T'Challa is brought a thing to pick up, a MacGuffin, basically, that will by Nebula. What happened? Oh, I'm like, where did you go? That totally freaked me out. Okay. Anyhow, T'Challa is brought a proposition by Nebula to go to the collector's area and get this this basically like the Allspark, but it's like biological, so it will regrow things, and just a little piece of it can like regrow an entire planet. And so where do they have to go to get it? They have to go to Nowhere, which is the Celestial's head. So that's still there. They go to Nowhere and they go to pick up they go to the collectors, and that's when they see that Tivon is like Tivon from the comics, who is super powerful. And this is another thing I'm loving about Stage 4. They're actually going back to the comics, and in the comics, Tivon is not just some weird, weak collector dude. He is a super powerful, super ancient being who's the brother of the Grand Master. They're both super powerful. They're not just humans. They have been alive for ages, like longer than the Earth. They're ancient, and they can do pretty much anything they want. So if the Grand Master wants you to fight, you fight. If the collector wants to collect you, he collects you. And they in Stage 4, they're basically, or Phase 4, I'm saying Stage 4. In Phase 4, they're basically making it like they're going back to their comic roots of these characters, and they made him super powerful, and it looked like they were gonna lose, and so he was fighting him, and then he gets double crossed by Nebula, and he ends up getting caged. And he while he's caged, there's like basically it turns into like a heist, but it turns into a heist like Ocean's 11 style, where it's like there's a double cross to the double cross, and that's really cool. So they what? You're from Asgard. Oh my god. Okay. I'm from Asgard, and the prices of homes here are ridiculous. We have our own Skid Row near Valhalla. A lot of us are moving to the U.S. because of this. Okay.
That's actually pretty funny. I mean, I enjoy that one.
I'm pretty sure Asgard takes care of their citizens.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know that Skid Row would be so close to Valhalla, because Valhalla is where, that's basically where you go if you're a soldier, and that's basically your paradise. So I don't know if you would want Skid Row so close to a paradise. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Valhalla is the afterlife, so it's not on the same plane.
That's true.
I think they mean Asgard. It would be like, what if their Skid Row was the other side of Asgard? You know how Asgard is like a floating planet, like continent? What if like the flip side, the underneath side, is like the ghetto?
Sifro. That's pretty good wordplay, E. Heller. That's pretty good.
So,
right. Oh yeah, that's true. We have not mentioned Howard the Duck. Oh, and we haven't showed any memes.
The Odin propaganda.
We have not shown any memes. Hold on.
Okay.
You're explaining the Odin. All right. So first, hold on. Oh, I'm on. Let me share Matthew's memes.
Where Pilgrim. They'd make Skid Row illegal and move it to Hell's Neighborhood. That's kind of funny.
Right. The first episode memes. This better not awaken anything in me. I'm a little confused as to what that's supposed to mean. Like turn him straight? Is that what you're... I'm confused on that one.
I don't know. Next one. Okay.
That is so wrong.
That's accurate. That's how tiny
Oh my
he
God.
was compared to her.
He really was. He was so small.
Because remember, in the first Avenger, he was only like 5'6" and like 100 and something pounds.
Yeah, he was tiny.
He was
And
itty-bitty,
like I said,
150
she
pounds,
basically
something.
became like She-Hulk size.
Mhm. She was bigger than her before she took the serum, so.
Oh God.
Where's Steve Rogers? The war ended 70 years ago. Does he have a nephew?
Oh God.
That's pretty good.
That is funny.
Does he have a nephew? He doesn't, because he was an only child. Me trying to spread joy with ridiculous memes. The comment section. Gonna knock him right off of that. Yeah.
All right. So
All right,
let's
the memes
continue.
were brought to us by Matthew.
Yeah,
Thanks,
all right. I'm
Matthew.
gonna bring up the ones for this episode in just a second, but go ahead and finish your commentary.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, Jay. Captain Carter, me want snoo. So yeah, so to wrap it up, like the best part of this episode is the fact that so many different things have changed. It's the same character. Not Steve Rogers. I saw Steve Rogers, so I was thinking about it. But T'Challa is still T'Challa. And
very
Yondu is still Yondu. He still lied to Star-Lord. This time, instead of what he told Peter Quill, he told T'Challa that the Earth was destroyed because after exploring for a while, T'Challa was like, okay, I should go see my family. And Yondu lied to him and said, no, your home's been destroyed, your dad is dead, blah, blah, blah. And then when T'Challa goes into the ship and he sees the message that his father sent and he sees how much older his father is in the message, he's like, hold on, this motherfucker
You
lied
lied
to
to
me.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but unlike Star-Lord, instead of getting super pissed off and hating on him, he just goes, okay, well, now we're going to Earth. Like, we're going to go back and see it.
Yeah.
And he just kind of gets over it. He's like, all right, whatever. I'm still going to go to Earth. And, yes, Howard the Duck does make an appearance.
I feel like there's just enough Howard the Duck in this episode.
Yeah, he shows up.
You don't want too much Howard the Duck.
He shows up and he starts telling T'Challa, like, he's directing him how to go about everything. And the best part was T'Challa's like, all right, fuck this. And he just, like, shoots the lock and opens it up. And he's like, just show me where it is. And then, of course, Howard's like, okay. And he goes straight to, like, a bar and starts drinking.
Hey, Quaker.
And, hey, Quaker. He goes straight to a bar and starts drinking. And then, like, then T'Challa's like, all right, fuck you, man. He goes on by himself. But they end up getting the thing. And it turns out, at first, you were thinking that Nebula double-crossed T'Challa, but then you discover that Nebula, it was an Ocean's 11 type plan, and the double-cross was intentional so that he could get in, so that he could find it, so that while Tivon was dealing with the Ravagers, T'Challa, could easily get out of his cage, which he did. He used, around his neck, he has a necklace of claws, like panther claws.
Yeah, it's a vibranium. Yeah.
And he used those to get out of his cage, and that's where he met Howard the Duck, and he found the MacGuffin that was able to let them out. And then the really cool thing is the Black Order is here, but now they're on Tivon's side, and so in order for the Ravagers to get away, Thanos fights them. And I'm like, yes, we finally get to see Thanos fight without any Infinity Stones, so that people can understand like Thanos is just a badass. And he's able to just about take all of them out except for one. And that's when Nebula comes back and saves them. And she saves them by putting like 3 of the seeds in whose mouth was it?
It was the big guy who doesn't really talk. I can't remember his name.
Hi,
he doesn't really have any lines. Yeah. Hey, Lawrence.
Yeah. So she does that, and it's just like Jack and the Beanstalk, where like immediately this huge
it's very poison ivy
sprout comes out and like starts growing and is rapidly taking over the skull of Nowhere. And so now they're in a race against time because they have to get out before Nowhere becomes, this giant chia pet. And, and so they end up, everybody ends up getting out, and they go to Earth, and it's a really cool moment when they land. They get off the spaceship, they land in Wakanda, and T'Challa's family, with both his mother and father, are there to greet his new family, the people who raised him while he was in space. And so Yondu gets introduced to T'Chaka, and it's a really cool moment. And I also think that the implication is that, like, in the movie Black Panther, his father had killed his uncle and left Killmonger by himself. I don't think that happens, because I think because remember, T'Challa leaves in like the 80s, and that happened in the 90s. And I think T'Chaka is still looking for T'Challa, and he's not going to worry about killing his own brother. So I think it has huge implications throughout the MCU. And I think it was just, I think the second episode was just much better done, because it wasn't a retreading of Guardians of the Galaxy. It was completely different.
Right. And I also loved that the part where why can't I think of his name right now? Dave Bautista's character, Drax.
Drax the Destroyer.
The fact that Drax is a bartender, and he's like, first off, he's like, your money's so good here. He's like, oh, I guess because I'm a celebrity. He's like, no, we only take cash. But then, like, the fact that he's like, oh, you are Star-Lord, we must get a picture. It's like to send to my wife and my daughter. It's like, oh yeah, that's because Thanos didn't destroy his home world, so he gets to be with his wife and daughter. Oh, yes. Like, that was so beautiful. It was so beautiful.
So, and I love how in this episode, just seeing one little thing changes. Like, when you see Nebula and she's just got the one thing over her eye, you automatically can figure out, oh, so she didn't fight Gamora. So, and that means Gamora never came. So there's like one little thing that you see has so many implications that just like, okay, that never happened now. Seeing Thanos be the good guy means he didn't hire Ronan the Destroyer to go after Drax the Destroyer, or Ronan, he didn't hire Ronan to go after Ronan the Inquisitor. What's his name?
Yeah, Ronan the Inquisitor.
Yeah, Ronan the Inquisitor to go after Drax the Destroyer's planet. So all of these, they're like all these dominoes. You see one little thing and you're like, there's this huge domino effect.
Well, that's a good question, Jay. Like, what are Rocket and Groot up to in this universe? I would love to know.
They're probably still bounty hunters.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, but just in different situations. Like, what's Gamora up to?
Gamora,
we'll have to see. So I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see how many of these characters from episode 1 and episode 2 and the series going forward, like how many of them show up in live action. Like I would actually kind of dig in Multiverse of Madness to see Captain Carter, or to see, film noir Nebula, or good Thanos. I think that'd be really interesting. Oh, Accuser, yeah.
Accuser,
right.
You're right. I knew.
Who's the Inquisitor?
I knew Inquisitor wasn't right. It was Ronan the Accuser. Sorry.
Who is Inquisitor?
Thank you, Jay. Look, my brain is half melted.
Right,
like
I think I figured out.
My ADD is terrible.
Yeah, I think I figured out how we can end the radio and still keep the stream going.
I have to go. I can't.
Oh, do you have to go?
Keep going. Yeah.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we couldn't get to X-Men, so we'll have to do that another day. But I think that we had a really good conversation about, we actually had a lot of good conversation about, what's going on. We got caught up. So I think this is a pretty good place to stop. So, Jackie, close us out.
All right, you can find me here, Nerdolitics, every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific. Figure it out in your own time zone.
Do you know when Rose Against the Machine is coming back yet?
Buy our merch!
Buy our merch!
Oh, Robin. Thank you, Robin. Rose Against the Machine might come back at some point. I don't know exactly when. I have a lot of shit going on. Killjoy Guide!
Yeah, the Killjoy Guide. I have a live stream coming up on Thursday with Esha from Historically. And I have another interview next Tuesday with Andre Walton about organizing in rural and conservative areas. I also have an interview that I'm doing tomorrow that will be pre-recorded that I'll also probably put up next Tuesday. So keep an eye out for all those things. And yeah, buy the merch. Go buy merch.
Yes, and thank you to everybody for joining us and listening to us and buying our merch and following us or supporting us on Ko-fi. So,
yes, thank you guys. See you next week.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yes. Do all the things.
All the things.
All the things. All right, bye, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.